gents, welcome to War Thunder with Mags, and welcome to the 1.39 test server on the 10th of April. Now, I wanted to test a whole bunch of aircraft the next time the test server came up, but unfortunately Gaijin has selected the worst possible moment to open the test server to the public. It opened up at about 2 AM my time, and I have work the next day. And it's school holidays here in Australia, so I have both my kids running around at the moment playing, so 3 AM testing, 4 AM testing is really not an option for me. So I was only able to hang around on the test server for about an hour, so I didn't get to test everything that I wanted to test. But we'll run through here and everything that I did get to check out. Now, first up first, the LA-15. Now, pretty much nothing has changed. It's still using the old MiG-15 flight model. No noticeable differences in the aircraft at all. Now, I say the old MiG-15 flight model. That is because the new MiG-15 flight model is now in-game. Now, I had a chance to test the biz, but only for a couple of minutes. My client crashed and I decided to go to bed as soon as it did. So I only got a couple of minutes with the MiG-15 biz. It does feel a little different, but I haven't had enough experience with the biz to really be able to identify the changes as I have with the MiG-15. So first thing I noticed, takeoff speed. It took the entire runway to hit 300 kilometers an hour to get it off the ground. And this is because, as I understand it, the thrust change to the MiG-15, the standard non-biz, it's lost about 750 kilos of thrust, or around 23% of its total thrust capability. The aircraft itself feels much slower in the roll now. You can see it here. That is full aileron roll. It's much lower, which does fit with its historical capabilities. That big tail on the back of the MiG-15 was used for dive stability and elevation control, but it did come at the cost of roll rate on the MiG-15. Something the MiG-15 never suffered from in the past. So I quite like this change. As you can see, I'm actually losing speed at a 25-degree climb angle at the moment. It is not gaining speed, where the old one could climb out well past 30 and still be gaining speed. In all honesty, I've spent a lot of time flying the F-86s, but it was mainly the F-86 F2, and mine is fully upgraded. Its climb rate now feels a lot more like a fully upgraded F-86, which is comparable for a stock MiG-15. They did climb better than the Sabre, and with upgrades they will. Just did a little air brake test then. The air brake is still as meaningless as it ever was on the MiG-15. It barely slows acceleration at the best of times. It's really only something you deploy during landing for that little bit of extra slowdown when bringing in a little bit of extra speed control. In the air, it's not like the massive handbrake that the F-86s are equipped with. Taking it up past 750 kilometers an hour, and the control surfaces do feel very heavy now. This is absolute full turn under elevation. This is the best the MiG-15 is now capable of, at least in stock format. It will get better with upgrades, but this is what I would more expect from an aircraft that was really designed as a high altitude interceptor and designed to boom and zoom enemy targets. It wasn't really built as a turn fighter. It was built for maximum speed and high-speed interception. The overall speed and acceleration of the MiG-15, as I said, this one is completely stock, and it feels as fast as a fully upgraded F2 F-86 does. So with upgrades, it will be a faster aircraft, which it was, but it's no longer going to have the massive speed and acceleration advantage it once did. Just doing a second bridge pass there. Control surfaces feel very heavy. It does also get a little bit of a ground effect, I've noticed. When moving it into under 50 feet, the aircraft does want to try and climb completely on its own. Taking it over into a loop, its energy retention has dropped. It can only maintain about 450, starting at about 750 through that loop. It is capable of getting it back rather quickly. Just taking it back into low altitude again, just to test that ground effect. And you see, as it comes in, the whole plane just seems to want to push off the ground, even though I am trying to keep it as low as possible, just keeping clear of the buildings. But as I angle it down, it just doesn't seem to want to lose the altitude as rapidly as you would expect. This isn't a bad thing for control. I don't know how historically accurate the ground effect on the plane is, but with the control surfaces stiffening at high speeds, and generally the MiG-15 will always be doing above 700 whenever you take it down to low altitudes, a little bit of push from the ground to prevent you from smacking it into the ground really easily isn't such a bad thing. It's not something I mind, even if it's something that turns out to be not particularly historically accurate. I don't mind it being there. So, do a vertical climb test, check energy retention, put it straight at the sky and see how high we can get. Now this is the other thing I noticed. You'll notice my oil has overheated now. I don't recall ever having issues with the MiG-15 having oil or engine temperature problems, but it seems that it now does. Specifically if you're doing a lot of flying at low speeds, and you'll see here as I brake in and I'm dropping down below 200 kilometers an hour, my airspeed through the engine is dropping, therefore my radiator airflow is dropping rapidly, and the temperature starts spiking across the board. And there's the engine temp, has just lit up. Oil temp, now I've got my airspeed back up over 600, has dropped, and the engine temp begins dropping again. So you're going to have to keep the MiG-15 fast. Now here's a climb test. Now I'm just standing on the elevators as hard as I can here, giving full lift, and I couldn't pull it out of that dive. Diving from over 800 kilometers an hour, smacked it into the ground. We'll take another look at that. So again, we're just diving down past 500 kilometers an hour. There's 600, 700, 800. I hit 900 and I just stand on the control surfaces, everything as much as I can, full elevation, and it just will not pull out of the dive. The old MiG-15 flight model, that would have resulted in ripping off both of its wings, but you can see the change there. It's no longer capable of those ridiculous high-G manoeuvres at extremely high speeds. So next up I took a look at the P38 Lightning. Now this was an aircraft that I truly love in real life, but I barely fly in War Thunder just because of how badly it handled. I think that is going to change. Just putting it through its paces here, I've just taken off and I'm throwing it around a little. Overall, its roll rate is much improved on what it was. Speed in level flight, you see I'm full WEP here at the moment, but I'm easily getting ready to punch 400, and this is an Era 2 aircraft. Twin-engined, in level flight, just cruising along, so it's faster than it was. Its whole overall acceleration is better. Actually, it's probably something to point out there. It isn't faster than it used to be. It's its acceleration that has changed. The P38 used to be used to hitting these speeds, but you'd need an exceptionally long distance to be able to do it. And there's the new flaps. Now, these have been shown off a little bit. These were in the last patch. I never had a chance to look at them. This is them on full deploy. No longer does the P38 have the Corsair style drop flaps. It now has full extending flaps right across the board, and you can feel the performance difference in the flaps has changed as well. The aircraft is much better using them. I just did kill the engine while performing that test then, because the new physics for ripping off flaps will tear the landing flaps off a P38 as well. When they're deployed that far, it's combat flaps only at high speeds. It's taken to a low. I'm not entirely sure, but I think they've tinkered with some of the graphics options as well. I'm running the same detail levels that I run on when I'm playing the standard current live server, and frame rates were slightly lower than I would normally get, but everything did seem a little bit sharper, so I'm wondering if they've played with the DirectX 11 a little bit as well for this iteration of the test server. And you can see the roll rate on this thing now. The old P38 couldn't dream of pulling a roll like that. Dive performance is much improved. Again, it's more the acceleration in dive performance. Exactly the same weapons loadout, and everything else about the plane is the same. The changes are enough that I think once 1.39 drops, I will be giving the P38 a fairly good working over. I still consider it to be one of the most gorgeous aircraft ever created, And it always bothered me that this was the one aircraft that, pre the current or the new system where mastery used to be a thing with aircraft, this was the only premium I ever had that I was never able to max out. And next up is the Bearcat, the F8F1. Now, I haven't had a chance to test the 1B. I don't know if it's gone through the same changes as the MG-equipped 1 series has. But has this thing had a working over or what? The first thing you'll notice is its climb performance has taken a hit. It will still outclimb aircraft like the P-51, but it no longer climbs like a rocket like it used to. However, its manoeuvrability is godlike now. It's actually dangerous to the pilots to manoeuvre it at full capability. You'll see I'm having trouble getting a little bit of speed. This is a plane, it doesn't really start accelerating now until you get it up over 350 kilometers an hour, and then it will rocket forward. But you cannot take those aggressive climb angles you used to. Just pulling out a little bit of distance from the carrier. Just passing 300 kilometers an hour, and you'll notice it will slowly start accelerating more quickly now as it goes along. It takes a little bit to wind this plane up now. So the Bearcat rush domination tactic is no longer going to be viable. But look at that roll rate in the turn. Just snaps itself straight under, no problems at all. Take it straight into a loop. And look at the turning circle on it. This thing can conceivably do a loop and in an area passing close to each wingtip on a B-17, looping over and over and over again if the B-17 would stay still. Its circle is that tight. Its turn in horizontal is... it's godlike. It can turn over a single point on the map with no problems at all anymore. And I'll show this here in a second. Here we go. Look at the turn circle on this thing. Full elevator, mouse cursor to move, and just snap turns, no problems whatsoever. Engaging a Bearcat in a turn fight now is going to be fatal. However, this new manoeuvrability does come at a cost. The Bearcat, as you see when I started this series of manoeuvres, was doing over 400 kilometers an hour, and I've easily managed to smash it down to under 200. Take it back to 400 again and go back into a turn, and you can see the speed drop performing these turns. Bearcat pilots that are used to being able to just stand on the elevator and maintain speed during a turn are actually going to run themselves into a world of trouble very quickly with the new flight model. It's going to bleed speed so fast that it is going to make you vulnerable and can push the aircraft into a stall. It turns so tightly. Besides that, nothing else has really changed. The MGs are still as good as they used to be. No other changes to the aircraft at all. It does appear to be more stable, rolling down the centre of the axis of the plane now, rather than sort of wallowing about a little bit. But there's not much of a change there. Let's move on. Now that was the last of the flight model testing I was able to do. However, I did get a chance to play around with the menus and have a look, and I found this. Now, I have no idea why this aircraft is here. What's happened is the Focke-Wulf 190 D9 Premium, the super expensive 7,000 gold plus aircraft, has been removed from the tech tree, and it has been replaced with another premium Spitfire, identical to the LF Mark 9 that the Americans get and the British get in their standard tree. It does have a lower reward rating. The American one is 250 reward. This thing is only 230. But I'm not sure why this plane exists. For those of you who don't know, the reason why the Spitfire was put in as a premium by Gaijin was at the time the American line didn't have things like the Bearcat or things along those lines anywhere in their tech tree. Everything they had was very much boom and zoom orientated. Things like the Ki-45, the Premium Zero, and of course the American Spitfire, which flew completely differently to the American aircraft that were available in their natural tech tree. Russian aircraft don't have that problem. The entire Russian line can be best described as jack of all trades, master of none. They do everything well but don't excel in any particular area. As a result, I can't see a reason for this Spitfire being put in. The D9 was perfectly fine to have as a premium aircraft. It just needed its gold cost reduced, so it was worth buying, because nobody's going to buy a D9 at the cost of 3 other premiums. While I was floating around, I also decided to have a look at the new Avenger. This is an aircraft that's been put into the British line for much the same reason. The British are really lacking in dive bomb capable aircraft. So the premium Avenger is really a much welcome change. It's basically the same as the American one, just has a cooler skin and some better textures. And I think it's going to be a pretty nice little plane. Now, it was here I noticed that the Meteors now have their correct designations. For those who don't know, short wing and long wing were nicknames for the F4 Meteors, not their correct names. So they're now designated the Meteor F Mark III, the Meteor F Mark IV G41F for the long wing, the G41G for the short wing, and the Mark 8 for the Meteor F8, obviously. Now, why I haven't had a chance to test these aircraft, I was told that the Meteor series has had some flight model adjustments as well. I would love to get back on the dev server to find out exactly what has changed, because I really do love these aircraft. They are just gorgeous, but we'll just have to wait and see for the next time that the dev server goes up. Physically to the models, pretty much nothing has changed. And sadly, that was all I had time to check out on this iteration of the test server. I really would have liked it if Gaijin put it on an earlier hour at my time. It would have allowed me some better options, but hopefully a few of you got to jump on and take a look at these aircraft and see what has changed for yourself. Other noticeable changes that were put in that I've been told about since is the F-86's manoeuvrability has been increased. Particular tests involve the F-86 being able to perform an aileron roll, a full 360 aileron roll in under 2 seconds. The obvious flight model changes to the Meteors that have been done, I haven't really got a breakdown on how they would change, but the reports have come back that they are a better aircraft now. The F9Fs have also had flight model adjustments, basically around manoeuvring and roll rates. The F80C and the F80A have also apparently had some work done. Again, didn't have a chance to test this myself, but apparently they no longer have the energy retention that they used to in a vertical climb. And the big change is now pulling in excess of 10 Gs while moving at over 650 kilometers an hour will result in your wings leaving your aircraft in the F80 series. Besides that, the F80A and the F80C still have the same battle rating, I was able to check that, and still run with the same flight model. Anyways folks, I'm going to call this one here. Click like if you do, subscribe if you want to see more, fly smart, fly safe, and I'll catch you in the skies.